like we have a quorum. Do you want to start?
Yeah, let me make sure OTSS is ready to start the live stream.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, I believe they're ready, and it's 10 o'clock, and it looks like we've got a quorum, so we're going to let you go ahead.
All right, thank you. Good morning. I'm Pamela Manners, Chair of the Commission on School Accreditation. This regular scheduled meeting of the Commission on School Accreditation is being held today, Thursday, April 6, 2023, at 10 o'clock a.m. via teleconference from the Senator Gray Ferris Boardroom of the Mississippi Department of Education, 359 Northwest Street, Jackson, Mississippi. The meeting is being live streamed via the MDE YouTube channel. An audio recording is being made of this meeting, and minutes of this meeting will be recorded. As I call the names of the commission members, please state the location of your presence for this meeting. Kelly Barfield. Present. Vicksburg. Thank you. Dr. Lundy Brantley. Lori Brexell. Present in Brandon, Mississippi. Thank you. Anthony Bryant.
Present, Tupelo, Mississippi.
Thank you. Dr. Carla Evers.
Good morning, President, Pass Christian, Mississippi.
Thank you. Reginald Goins.
Present, Sarah, Mississippi.
And I see Dr. Brantley just came. Good morning, Dr. Brantley. Where are you calling from?
You're muted, Dr. Brantley.
You're muted.
I'm at the Shelby County School District.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Jefferson Hughes. All right, I'm Pam Manners, and I'm in the left seat. Dr. Valencia Martin. Aisha Maxwell. President Horn Lake, Mississippi. Thank you. Brad Stevens.
Present, Tupelo, Mississippi.
Thank you. Jan Vaughn.
Good morning, Greenville, Mississippi.
Thank you. And Sarah Wilborn. Present, Battlesville, Mississippi. Thank you. And Ingrid Williams.
Present, Clinton, Mississippi.
All right, thank you. A quorum of the commission is present for the purpose of conducting the meeting. This meeting is called to order at 10:03 a.m. Our next item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. And commission members, you've received a copy of the agenda, so at this time, I'll entertain a motion for approval of this agenda. Please identify yourself for the record.
Carl Evers, move approval of the agenda as provided.
Thank you. And may I have a second, please?
Brad Stevens, second.
All right, thank you. Is there any discussion? No? At this time, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Are there any opposed? No? All right, thank you. The motion carries. We're on to item 3, which is an action item, approval of the minutes of the February 2nd, 2023 meeting of the Commission on School Accreditation. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the February 2nd, 2023 meeting of the Commission on School Accreditation. As you make your motion, please say aye. All right, thank you, Dr. Brantley. And second?
Lori Brechel, second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All right, if not, then all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? No, the motion carries. Thank you. Item 4 is an action item. It's the approval to upgrade the accreditation status of the Wayne County School District from probation to accredited. At this time, I'll entertain the accreditation status of the Wayne County School District from probation to accredited. Please identify yourself as you make the motion.
Lundy Brandon, Shelby County School.
All right, thank you, Dr. Brantley, and may I have a second? Sarah Wilborn, I second. Thank you very much. Is there any discussion? Not, then at this time, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Thank you, the motion carries. Item 5 is also an action item. It's the approval to upgrade the accreditation status of the Leland School District from probation to accredited. I will entertain a motion to approve this upgrade for the Leland School District from probation to accredited. Please identify yourself for the record.
Kelly Barfield, so moved.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
Jan Bond, second.
Thank you. And is there any discussion? If not, at this time, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, the motion carries. Item 6 is a discussion item, and it is the proposed revision to the Mississippi Admin Code 7-24, Mississippi Public School Accountability Standards, 2022, specifically the business rules of the Mississippi Statewide Accountability System, Section 9, Acceleration, Section 10, Ranking Scores, End of Course, Subject Area Assessments taken before 10th grade, Section 15, English Learners, Section 19, Rounding, Section 25, College and Career Readiness Indicator, and Section 27, Other, with Mr. Alan Burrow. And Mr. Burrow will present the information and the request. Good morning, Mr. Burrow.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Can y'all hear him?
All right, anytime you're ready.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I was going to say speak loud. You may need to speak more into that than the microphone. I'm
Yes.
not sure.
Let me slide this over to. Okay, so good morning, commission members. We are bringing forward changes to the business rules for accountability as we typically do each year. We propose or we entertain changes or needed edits to the business rules to clarify business rules or to address any concerns that we have proposed to the Accountability Task Force for accountability. So these business rules have business rule changes have been discussed by the task force before they've brought to you. And so these now, if approved by the commission, will go out for APA. We'll go to the board and then go out for APA. So we'll get public comment before they become final. So I'm just going to step through these as quickly as possible, and then if you have any questions, I'll be glad to address those. So starting with Section 9, Acceleration, we've added in the first red line edit that you'll see a clarification that the assessments, the industry certification assessments that are included in accountability are those that are processed through the RCU, which is contracted by the MDE to administer industry certification assessments. So this isn't a change. This is just to clarify, because we've had some questions about what industry certification assessments are included in accountability. Section 9.2.1 just clarifies that dual credit courses must be credit-bearing courses at both the high school and post-secondary institution. This is a clarification because we had a school district that was giving enrolling students in dual credit courses at the high school, but they weren't enrolled in a dual credit course at a post-secondary institution. Section 9.3. Again, this is just a clarification about how we calculate the acceleration component. This isn't a change because we had some questions or some confusion about how that score was calculated. So again, just a clarification in the business rules. We deleted some extraneous information that has been a bit confusing and is no longer needed. This phased-in approach from years past. So that's 9.3. 9.4.2, again,
Alan,
is
can I interrupt for a second? Can we get everyone to mute their phones while Mr. Burr is speaking? We're getting some paper rustling. We're not quite sure where it's coming from. And then, Alan, if you can speak up, I'm getting messages saying that that you're kind of low key, which we know that's just you in general, but if you'd speak up a little bit more.
all right, let's see.
All right, tell me where you are. 9.3?
We are looking at 9.4.2 now. So 9.4.2, again, is just some clarification. Not a change to the business rules and some deletion of some confusing language in there. Just clarifying that 9th and 10th graders that take and pass accelerated courses are included in an accountability acceleration component. 9.10, again, is a clarification. Only IB courses right now have courses that are given over a course of 2 years and are affected by the business rule of 9.10. So we just clarified that it specifically addresses these IB courses. 9.12 or 9.12, sorry. Ungraded. Now this is a change, not impacting very many students, but we found that we had SED students that were continuing to receive services once they had graduated or they had gone beyond the peer age equivalent of a senior. They were still being included in accountability measures in participation calculations for acceleration. This business rule just says that if we have SED students that are ungraded and we're using the peer age equivalent, once they've gone beyond being a senior, they're not going to be included in participation measures for this component. Okay, so Section 10 this is a continuation of adjustments that were made to the accountability system last year in regard to missing scores related to the pandemic and the disruption in assessments in 2019 and 2020. We thought we were done with these adjustments, but we had a couple of districts that are still impacted because they assess students in 7th grade Algebra 1 in the 7th grade. So these would be, they have a 7th grade Algebra 1 program, and they had students that were in the 7th grade in Algebra 1 back in 2019, 2020 when we didn't assess. So they're missing those scores. This is just a continuation of the same logic that was applied last year to address those missing scores. It addressed the concern last year that there were missing scores for 8th grade Algebra 1 testers. And this is a continuation of that to address missing scores for 7th grade Algebra 1 testers. This affects only 2 districts. There's only 2 districts in the state that have, we went back and looked at the numbers. In 2019, 2020, there were 2 districts that only had 1 student tested in 7th grade algebra, and there was 1 district that had 2 students tested in 7th grade algebra. These 2 districts had 76 and 25, so they had a significant group of students. So this would really only apply to those 2 districts. So this will just say that since they're missing those 7th grade Algebra 1 scores, we'll use this year's 7th grade Algebra 1 scores. Again, continuing that logic from the adjustment from last year for those end-of-course assessments. Okay, we can scroll on down to section 15. Okay, so we're...
Dr. Martin, is that you?
That's me. I joined at 10:14.
Okay, can you state your location?
Greenwood, Mississippi.
Okay, go ahead, Alan.
Okay.
Malone,
Yes, uh-huh.
this is Jeff Hughes. I joined around 10:13, 10:14.
All right, can you state your location?
Running a little late this morning. Covington County Schools.
Okay, thank you. If you guys could please mute your phone while Mr. Burr continues to present. Thank you.
Okay, so section 15 addresses English learners and the English learner progress component of the accountability system. Again, these are just some clarifications. So 15.3, just we're adding in the word, you'll see overall scale score in here. We're addressing the confusion around what portion of the English language proficiency test is included in accountability measures, and that is the overall score. So there are several component scores within the assessment, but we only use the overall score for accountability measures, so we're just clarifying that here. And then in section 15.4.3, a clarification that EL students that have reached overall proficiency on the ELPT are no longer included in the EL progress measure in the accountability system. So again, not a change, but just a clarification of the business rules. Let's see, the next section is section 19. Okay, this has to do with rounding. Again, a clarification because of feedback that we got about when the weighting applies to the calculation. So as you know, we have these components that are added together to get a composite score for the accountability system. So this just clarifies that once we calculate the rounded final value of each component, then we apply the weighting to the components after we have applied the rounded value for each component. Again, not a change to what we're doing, just clarification. And we've removed this example, didn't feel that it was helpful or necessary. And we have, I believe, one more. No, we have two more. Section 25, so. Section 25 addresses the college and career readiness component. As you will recall, we added ACT work keys recently. 25.15, we're just adding a section here, a subsection here, to clarify that ACT work keys is not included in participation calculation. It is an optional assessment. But it does not replace ACT participation as defined in the prior subsection. So a student still needs to assess in the regular ACT assessment to be included in college and career readiness. ACT work keys does not replace that requirement. So just a clarification. And then one more, section 27. Just a clarification that we need proper documentation that a student was enrolled in a foreign exchange program in order for them to be removed from accountability calculations. This is a part of the internal review process that we go through. A district can request that a foreign exchange student be removed from the accountability calculations. However, we need proper documentation for that, so we're just clarifying that requirement. And that's all I have for changes for this year. Do I have any questions about these changes?
Carl Ambrose, I have a few questions.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, up your members.
all right, on page 36, this was the time frame where I couldn't really hear. What are the associated assessments that's being mentioned here?
Okay.
And associated assessments administered through NDE, what are some examples of associated assessments?
What page were you on? I'm sorry.
Page 36, 9.2, my apologies.
Okay. So for industry certifications, we have industry certification courses, and we have industry certification assessments for those certifications. This is just to clarify that the only industry certification assessments that we use in accountability come through the RCU, which is the contracted vendor to administer these industry certification courses. So it's not a change to accountability. This is the way it's been, but there's been some questions about if other administrations of industry certifications would be included. No, that we only use those that go through the RCU.
Okay. On page 38, under the notes, where we're adding the red section under 10.3, do we need those prior to notes, the ones that speak to 2021, 2022, and do we need those first two notes, or can they be redacted?
I kind of want to defer to Dr. Malone. We have left language in for historical context in the past, and we have also deleted language that that has been kept for historical context. So I guess that's really something that's we can do
I was
either.
gonna say, yes, we can discuss that internally to decide before we take it to the board. Because again, in the past, it just kind of depends on what it is as to how long we leave it in there for historical purposes in case we need it.
Just two more, I'm sorry. On page 41, if I'm understanding you right, that this is aligning to current practice under 19.1, the rounding, is that going to have any impact on the final score? And if so, do we have examples of how it might change things?
So no, this would not change the current practice that has been in place for several years. We had some questions during the internal review process this past year and some differing opinions about how we should round. There's so many different ways that we could apply rounding to these calculations within accountability. We just wanted to try to better clarify what the practice is, what we do, rather than we didn't attempt to try to change anything here.
And my last thing is systematics on page 40 under 15.4.3.
Oh, which number? I'm sorry.
Sorry, I had to back up.
Yeah.
It's just on 15.4.3, we're referring to people. I think we want to use the word who versus that. Someone can just check my grammar.
Right here.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions or comments for Mr. Burrows? All right, if not, then we move on to item 7, which is the action item. And at this time, then, I will entertain a motion to submit a request to the State Board of Education to begin the Administrative Procedures Act, APA process to revise Mississippi Admin Code 7-24, Mississippi Public School Accountability Standards 2022, specifically the business rules of the Mississippi Statewide Accountability System, Section 9, acceleration, Section 10, banking scores, and the 4th, subject area assessments taken before 10th grade, Section 15, English learners, EL, Section 19, rounding, Section 25, college and career readiness indicator, and Section 27, other. As you make the motion, please identify yourself for the record.
Lundy Brandon, Pro-Tem Schools.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
Jefferson Hughes, second.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Is there any discussion? No? All right, then at this time, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
8, which is a discussion item. The proposed revisions to Mississippi Administrative Code 7-24, Mississippi Public School Accountability Standards 2022, specifically process standards 29.1, 29.2, 29.3, and 29.4, transportation, and to establish process standards 29.5 and 29.6. And Mr. Brian McGarity will present the information and make the request for us. Good morning, Mr. McGarity.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning, commission members. Thank you for the opportunity to have this discussion item today. Again, my name is Brian McGarity, and I serve as the director of the Office of Safe and Orderly Schools. Mr. Jonathan Tillman, he's a pupil transportation administrator and is also with me today, representing the Division of Pupil Transportation. Before I go any further, am I clear on audio? Can everyone hear me okay? Okay.
Yes.
Right. So again, we're here to propose revisions to Mississippi Admin Code 7-24, Mississippi Public School Accountability Standards 22, specifically process standards 29.1, 29.2, 29.3, and 29.4, as well as you mentioned, established 29.5 and 29.6. On the backup information you have there, I just do want to note one minor editorial change if possible. In 29.1, we reference State Board Policy 81.9, and it should actually be 81.7. The reason for this request would be on the 29.1. Previously, multifunction school activity buses have not been included as part of minimum bus specifications in Mississippi. Beginning in July of 2023, those multifunction school activity buses will be allowed, and we want to make sure that those are being inspected on a quarterly basis as well. Additionally, this revision is necessary to promote the continued assurance of safety of all school buses and multifunction school activity buses. Recent audits have shown defects regarding inoperative emergency exits, poor tire tread, 8-way student lighting systems, as well as many other safety concerns, along with compliance with minimum school bus specs that, had they been inspected quarterly, would have been detected. 29.2, this revision is necessary to align with State Board Policy 81.3, which states 4 hours are needed. So there, in the policy, it mentions 4 hours. However, the standard says 2, so we're just requesting to modify that to align with our current policy. 29.3, to ensure buses are arriving on time before the instruction day begins. Again, these are requests that our office has gotten concerns from some parents indicating that their students are being late for school by requiring the district have on file the arrival time of those buses. That at least at minimum determines a schedule. Currently it just reads should ensure, but by have documentation at the local district office or the local schools, we could articulate that concern. 29.4, this is being a request request is to revise this one to align with the required hours to do the evacuation drills. As you see, 2 times each year has been struck through with a request of once each semester. Technically, the district would be in compliance if they conducted both drills on 2 days back-to-back in the month of May. This is trying to enhance muscle memory to ensure that these are being done evenly enough throughout the school year. In addition, we also are requesting that the bus evacuation drills are conducted prior to a school-sponsored activity trip. A lot of children that may be car riders who've never ridden a bus before. This will familiarize them as well with the operation of that bus and what to do in the event of an emergency, much like what you experience in the drills you go through when you fly on an airplane. The student safety is paramount, even in field trips as well. And then 29.5 and 29.6 are both to align with federal law requirements. 29.5 was actually passed in 2018. It's a federal law required for pre-employment checks to ensure that there's no drug or alcohol violations, to include items such as DUIs and others. There have been, I guess, loopholes, if you will, in which districts have perhaps potentially employed individuals that may have had DUI first on their records or DUI offenses on their records because this federal law wasn't being complied with as far as the checks. So this would ensure as far as this would emphasize it and put it in the standard as a visual reminder of the importance of conducting those. And then again, 29.6, that ELDT training came about, as required through the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Act, February 7th of 2022. This just enhances and emphasizes the need and importance of the local districts to have on file the actual documented training that their bus drivers have been through this training as far as new drivers go. That concludes the request as far as proposal to submit these modifications to these standards to Standard 29. And Mr. Tillman and/or myself will be glad to take any questions.
I have one question, Mr. McGarity. In 29.4, where it references bus drills for each school-sponsored activity trip, does that mean every time the athletic team board the bus prior to going to an away game, for example, there has to be a drill, or is there some provision for not doing that at every single time they leave the campus?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Tillman for that.
So if it's an athletic team, such as the basketball team who constantly travels, as long as they do that drill, maybe the first game prior, to going to a game, they do it then, but not every time they go on an activity trip.
Is there a way we can clarify that with the way it reads? I was about to say it's fixing to be a cumbersome thing to have to 40 times a year to do that. If we could say a minimum of one time, because we're gonna have, we're just gonna do nothing but drills.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I agree with both of you that we can modify that language to exclude athletic events or to minimize that to one per season of the athletic team.
Yeah, I think it's not a bad thing. I just don't think we do it every time. And the way it reads, if we were to, something were to happen and we did it the first time and then about 10 trips down the road we did it, I'm afraid we'd be caught in the mess right there, because even a lawyer looked at that we should have done that.
I agree.
This is Carl Asper's question. Are we supposed to keep records of all of these on 29.4?
Yes, those would be required with the evacuation drills that are already required in our policy.
All right, are there any other questions or comments for either Mr. Tillman or Mr. McGarity? No? All right, thank you very much. Anything you need to add, Mr. McGarity, before we discuss approval?
No, ma'am, just the fact that 29.4, we will revise that to reflect the language we proposed with one drill per athletic team season. And then also, we will also be aligning these policies. If it's approved, if this is approved by the Accreditation Commission, we would be aligning our policies to mirror the standard modifications as well.
This is Carl Evers. I think I still have an issue with it. For us, for example, we move students to other school districts every day for ROTC, for CTE. Am I going to have to do, this is even an exclusion of athletics, we still move kids for activities every day to other districts for different classes. Will we have to do an evacuation trip every day with those activity trips that happen routinely? So if it's a routine thing, I think if we could find some language around routine trips, that we do it the first time and document that the kids who go on those routine trips do it. But I get a field trip because maybe every child doesn't ride a bus, but I'm worried about, I don't know if other people have that issue, but moving kids every day, we might have to do it also, so.
Yeah, I see your concern as far as, individual groups, whether they be CTE or ROTC that may routinely ride the bus. I think the question being asked by members is, do we still need to do those drills and the cumbersome, basically use of time that brings in doing those if they're already familiar with riding a bus. At this point, I really think we need to kind of do some work on 29.4 and bring it back to you guys after hearing the comments we've heard today, and to have some more engaging conversations to make sure we're understanding the need and the issue it places on districts. This was some great feedback for us to hear. I do think that it is critical that we keep the language as far as the activity trips to not necessarily include your particular groups. My children, for example, they're car riders. They have the benefit of doing that right now, but may not always. But in a case that, I see them on a bus, I'm thinking to myself, what are they going to do if that bus hits crashes in a ditch or catches fire? They're going to panic because they're not familiar with riding a bus. So, but to your point, Dr. Evers, I understand, members that are on that bus back and forth from vocational centers, et cetera. I can understand the time constraint it puts on those who may be familiar with it. So if possible, I'd like to propose that we continue revision of 29.4 with today's only suggestion is that each semester on all route school buses, they're designated school sites. And let's fine tune the language as it relates to the evacuation drills for school-sponsored activity trips or field trips so that we address the extracurricular activity or extracurricular athletic or vocational technical piece.
Yeah, Brian, I agree with you there. We need that. We need we need the rules, but I'm just trying to think later on as to if we clarify and make it where it'd be hard for a lawyer to sue us because, I guess I always think we're always getting sued all the time. But I do think we do need to do what you're talking about doing, and that's do evacuation drills, because you're right, everybody doesn't ride a bus every day, so I 100% agree.
Yes.
And this is Kelly Barfield. As you look at that, when we started discussing this section, you made a reference to similar to instructions that are given on an airplane. It could be, and I don't know because I haven't experienced this, it could be that part of what you are is hanging us up in this proposed modification is the word drill, which seems much more extensive than simply everybody's on the bus, the driver stands up and gives the 15-second overview instructions. So it might be that for these repetitive field trips and so forth, a word like bus evaluation instructions are provided prior to. I say again, I don't know what the program consists of, but there seems to be a disconnect for me with you saying it's similar to being on an airplane, and the word drill reminds me of something that's much more extensive. So
Yeah, yes, ma'am. That's great feedback, and I did maybe speak out of tone there as it relates to the airplane. I think I was just trying to express the safety, or you're flying that high in the air, you take that, and you have our most valuable treasure, our children, on that bus. So just as valuable is kind of the point I was making on that. But I do understand what you're saying as it relates to drill versus 15-second verbal instructions.
All right, is there any further discussion, questions, or comments? All right, at this time, then, will we be voting, Dr. Malone, on the other standards that they are requesting, and we will just have them clarify and revise 29.4 in the motion?
I'm going to defer to legal counsel sitting beside me on how we need to handle this one.
Okay.
So vote on all of them except for 29.4. So vote to accept them all but 29.4 and then have a separate vote for 29.4?
We'll bring it back if that's okay.
So you're not wanting to move forward with any changes on 29.4?
They're already required to do those. This would just clarify once each semester.
Okay, I see what you're
But we'll turn
saying.
the item around as quick as we can and get it back before the start
To
of
come
next
back
school year.
to the next meeting or
We'll get it
whatever?
before next school year.
Okay, so then it sounds to me like the motion needs to be to accept the proposed revisions for everything except 29.4, and then we just don't move forward with any edits for 29.4. Okay.
Well, aren't we tweaking going 29.4? I had worded that it was just to clarify and revise the section on the drills because for activities, because we didn't want to keep right now for each semester qualification. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. Our thought process on that was hopefully we could get back in front of the Accred Commission before the start of the next school year. And then we could just take care of it all at one time. I just did propose that because it would make it easier for you to vote today by just striking all of 29.4 and let us clean that up.
Okay. All right. So we will strike all of 29.4. All right. At this time, then, I will entertain a motion to submit a request to the State Board of Education to begin the Administrative Procedures Act, APA process, to revise Mississippi Administrative Code 7-24, Mississippi Public School Accountability Standards in 2022 transportation, and to establish project standards 29.5 and 29.6, with the exception of 29.4, which will be clarified and revised, brought back to the Commission for review in following meetings prior to school starting next year. May I have a motion, please?
Motion, Lundy Braylon.
All right, thank you. And may I have a second, please?
Second, Jefferson Hughes.
All right, thank you. Are there any further discussion? All right, at this time, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Thank you, and we are on item 10, which is the Department of Education updates with Dr. Malone.
Okay, just a few very quickly. First of all,
as you can see, we are back in the building. Program offices are moving back into the building here in downtown at Central High School on a rotating basis this week, and our office moved back in yesterday. So we are hoping to soon be able to have you as the commission members be able to join us back in person once we get everything settled here. Also, a couple of other announcements. In case you were wondering, Mr. Brett Robinson, who has been serving on the commission as our principal representative, has resigned off of the commission. He has actually been recently appointed as the new state CTE director and will actually be joining the MDE staff here at MDE over the summer after he fulfills his role this school year as the principal. So that is a seat on the commission that we will be seeking to fill in the upcoming months. Also, Dr. Brantley has given me the okay to share his news. He will be retiring this summer at the close of the school year, and so he too will be vacating his position on the commission as our superintendent representative. So those are two slots that we will needing to be filled in the upcoming months to fulfill those unexpired terms. And so I want to personally say to Dr. Brantley, as well as to Mr. Robinson, who's not on the meeting today, a thank you for your service, not just to the commission, but to our students across the state and in your specific districts. So also, in case you are not aware, the Senate did not approve or confirm Dr. Taylor as our new state superintendent. So our board has recently named Mr. Mike Kent as our interim superintendent to serve until they can appoint another long-term interim superintendent while they then are also looking for a permanent state superintendent for us. So Mr. Kent stopped by the room earlier, right before we were meeting, and said to tell everyone hello, and he'll try to join us in another upcoming meeting. We weren't sure how long this meeting was going to last, and he was going to see what he could do to get back up here and say hello, but he was unable to do so. So he wanted to give you his best too, and say thank you. So I believe that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much, and congratulations, Dr. Brantley, on your retirement.
Thank you. I'm excited. I'll miss my people. I'm gonna still be around. I'm being consulting, so don't still all see me around all kinds of places. But I'm gonna my big thing. I'm gonna miss all my kids and my employees. We've got some great ones and done a great job. But it's just we all hit that time.
We do. That's true. Well, I hope you enjoy your retirement. Sounds like you will.
Thank
We're
you.
on to item 11 now, other business. And just as the next regularly scheduled meeting is scheduled for Thursday, June 1st, 2023. And at this time then, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Carol Wilborn, I make a motion. All right, thank you.
Kelly Barfield, Dr. Martin, I second.
Thank you. I've had Kelly Barfield as the second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Everybody. Thank you.
All right, we stand adjourned at 10:47 a.m. Thank you all